Hey team, as someone who really dislikes Ubisoft games, I have to give props to the developers of Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora and their secret quote-unquote unobtainium settings. Do you guys think this should be a standard across all PC games, or at the very least, the game will see much relevance in future benchmarks for years to come? Yeah, this was a bit of a welcome bonus, wasn't it, Alex?
Yeah, it was. I think it's a welcome bonus. There's a lot of questions, or there's just some aspects of it. For example, like my preferred version of max settings isn't just max samples. It's actually like entirely new tiers of visual experience, which is
Right.
requires this whole level of QA approaching it and design. And like, for example, like Crisis is very high settings. It wasn't just like extra samples. It was like you get entirely new effects that don't exist on the previous, high setting.
Right.
So that was always interesting. And that's why I always liked ray tracing. In Avatar's case, for the most part, you'll see it in my video, it's actually just like higher samples and higher res for things. Also highly appreciated. Whether or not it should be kept out of the menu, I actually talk about this in the video that I'm making right now, where I say, I'll just quote myself there. I say, like, on a philosophical level, I'm actually against it because I want everyone to have access to everything at the same time, and not, for example, like years later, you have to like go on to PC Gaming Wiki and figure that out. But at the same time, you see how
Oh yeah.
how
It's abuse,
unreasonable
basically.
people are. So I think Massive have saved themselves headaches of people being really unreasonable and throwing settings up to a high level and then complaining on it, image, like messaging boards or whatever, or in game reviews. It's not even on Steam. But like I think they saved themselves some headaches there. So I tend to agree with the idea that maybe this should be the route going forward, where power users can do it in a way. The way they did it here with the command line prompt is actually better than the INI example. I actually prefer it. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool in the end.
I'm interested in your thoughts on that, John. Essentially, with Avatar, you've got ultra settings, which you can only access by adding a command line parameter. Do you think that's right, or do you think maybe there should be some sort of warning that crops up if you actually choose these settings?
I kind of agree with Alex on this, that it's a shame you have to go through all that stuff, but with the way people are these days, I feel like this is them trying to limit damage and like dealing with people being very upset at them. And even if you put this stuff behind a warning, people are still going to click on it. The people that actually, basically these settings are designed so that the people that actually understand what they're doing are going to be able to enable it easily. And those who don't will not. And
Right.
I think it's really that simple. It's basically gating it to prevent people from just setting this thing up to that level, and then suddenly their game runs bad and then they get angry, try to return it, complain on social media. This is probably the best way that they could handle it at the moment. I would say the best thing would be, and who knows if it's even possible given how long it might be, it's like sometime in the future, in a couple of years, they just like patch the game slightly to add this to the options menu.
Right.
And like, we've unlocked these settings now in the game menu. Go have fun. That would be cool. But for the time, in the here and now, this is probably the best way to handle this safely.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting stuff. Alex, just final question about this. If I was doing a GPU review with Avatar, just stick to Ultra.
I think it's a more realistic use case scenario. The upgrades you're getting for things, I would say, other than shadows and maybe volumetric rendering, not so big in the average view. So I think it's fine to stick for Ultra for now, and then maybe in a few years you can drag out the Unobtanium.